welcome to the Will Leitch Show. I am the aforementioned Will Leitch, and I thank you for spending part of your day with me. Today's show is about this show. Okay, actually, it's about politics and the polarization of American culture, as described by today's guest, Steve Kornacki, in his new book, The Red and the Blue, the 1990s and the Birth of Political Tribalism. But we will get into that when he gets out here. Right now, I want to talk about this show and me, glorious me. Because this is the final episode of the first season of the Will Leitch Show. We will be back in January with season 2. Don't worry, you are not getting rid of me that easily. But as we finish season 1, I wanted to kind of reflect on, frankly, how much fun this has been to get to do. It never even occurred to me that something called the Will Leitch Show could actually exist, and frankly, it still seems pretty strange. To be honest, I don't really understand why they keep letting me do it, but they do, and I am having a blast. Now, the reason the show works, if you think it does, isn't me, of course, it is the guests. The best part of getting to do this is to talk to so many interesting people I would never have the opportunity to chat with otherwise. This is the 28th episode of this here show, and I've gotten to talk to 31 people for it. You should actually go back and watch all of them now. Now, to sell you on them, are you ready for this? I'm going to give a 6-word recap of every episode, okay? I'm going to sell these so well for you, you're not going to be able to wait to go back and watch them, okay? So deep breath. All right, here goes. Tara Lipinski, not very good at this yet. Jason Gay, media nerd, dresses like a snob. Drew Powell, fellow Midwesterner, wears super cool hat. Sklar Brothers, there are 2 of them, wow! Chris Hayes, Trump is going to kill us all. Godfrey, he actually yelled at me a lot. Taylor Rooks, someday we are all going to work for her. Judah Friedlander, bearded man, opines smartly about soccer. Grant Wall, he was just down the hall. Ron Livingston, we are putting cover sheets on TPS reports. Stephanie Beatriz, save Brooklyn Nine-Nine, yay, we did! Keith Hernandez, you're Keith Hernandez, I'm Keith Hernandez. Sadell Noel, she did the cool Black Panther salute. Chris Nashawati, get this, he talked about Caddyshack. Anthony Scaramucci, okay, I really hated talking to that guy. Leah Thompson, Lorraine McFly is so nice. Thomas Q. Jones, Bears running back, serious actor now. John Heilman, hey, did you know that he likes Wu-Tang? Bassem Youssef, comedy is actually harder than escaping Egypt. Mackenzie Phillips, somehow I did not ask her about her dad. Guy Pearce, this dude loves Aussie rules football. Andrea Kramer, the world's best interviewer schools me. Rob Riggle, don't ask him about the anthem protests at all. Mike Tolan and Robert Wool, that's right, our list was a show. Donald Faison and John C. McGinley, crap, I never did watch Scrubs. Mark Leibovich, brilliant writer, obliges my dumb questions. Dale Earnhardt Jr., we did not talk in a car. And Steve Kornacki, hey, let's see how he does. Thank you for watching this silly show. And thank you for letting me do it. I will see you next season. Joining us today for the final show of season 1 of The Will Leitch Show is NBC News and MSNBC national political correspondent and author of the new book, The Red and the Blue, the 1990s and the Birth of Political Tribalism. Please welcome Steve Kornacki. Sir, by all means, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for please have a seat. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for indulging me. You are the final guest on season 1 of The Will Leitch Show. So if we don't make a season 2, I'm not saying it's your fault.
It's kind of all on me right here, huh? Oh, boy.
Okay, so it seems to me, because this is a sports show, theoretically, it seems to me that, like, basically American society has turned into like a Yankees-Red Sox game.
Yeah.
And you're a Boston guy, you know this well. Like, it does feel like you are, like, regardless of, even if the ump's call is wrong in your favor and you know it's wrong in your favor, you don't care because your team is winning. Your book kind of talks about how that was all kind of built out of the 90s. Do you think that's an accurate representation to where we are right now, that basically it's a Yankees-Red Sox game?
Yeah. I mean, we use the term, tribalism, but that's essentially what that is, tribes of fans. I mean, I remember growing up in Massachusetts and having family in Connecticut, and there's this sort of imaginary line that runs right through, the middle of Connecticut, and suddenly opinions on everything just happen to change depending on which side of that you're on. And I think the political divide kind of goes the same way. You're right. It's like, so much of politics ends up being about process questions a lot, just sort of day to day. And these are process questions where there's no, deep value involved. Right. There's no long-standing ethic involved, and yet it aligns perfectly. Opinion on the process ends up aligning perfectly with party interest or tribal interest, really.
It's frustrating because I grew up in the Midwest, and I'm a Cardinals fan, and the Cardinals and Cubs fans have a rivalry. But generally speaking, I'm from like Central Illinois. Illinois is basically Chicago. Nebraska was Chicago at the top,
right?
And I'm from the Nebraska part. So I'm about like where it's like 50-50 Cardinals Cubs fans. So everyone, we might not like their team, and we might disagree with the way they live their lives, and we might think Wrigley Field should be burned to the ground, but we also don't hate them. Like we don't, like they're like your friends, you work together, you're so on. And I used to always see the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry and be like, wow, those people are lunatics. I'm so glad that not all of baseball is like that. And now all of America is like that. This is bad, right? Like you see this all the time. You talk about in the book about how that like the night, like kind of the Gingrich and all the 90s stuff. But like reading the book made me really nostalgic for the time right before your book.
Well,
and is there any way to go back? I guess.
I felt the same way, and I think part of it is just researching this and putting this together. One thing that occurred to me was I think as humans we're hardwired for tribalism to a certain degree. It's just I think you go back to our caveman ancestors or whatever, and I think there was something to do with survival that was linked up with that. Whatever
They're rooting for one person with the club, and
right? And it's just when you reduce everything to its most simple and bare elements, that's where you end up. So I think that's where we came from, and I think what happened was the era you're describing. When you think about it, think about how politics and the media operated back then. Think about the media in particular, because I think that's a big part of this. It was broadcasting as broad an audience as you could get. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, you want the ad dollars, you better get everybody. And, that was because cable television was just coming into being in the 1980s, really. And CNN, the first cable news network, comes along in 1980, doesn't really get traction till the Gulf War a decade later. You don't get partisan cable news till, Fox News in 96. MS in a form you might now recognize doesn't come along till a decade after that. But I think just the media has evolved in a way that is maximally conducive to that tribal impulse in us. And our politics have kept pace with it. And there's all this media politics fusion too, and that's kind of where we are.
It doesn't feel like I know evolution is the term, but it doesn't feel like an evolution. It feels like maybe it's going the other way, right? Or am I kidding myself? Did we really all fight like this back then? We just didn't. We didn't.
Well, we fought. I mean, we did. Right. We fought. Famously, the cliche is we fought a civil war. I mean, we did. We fought a civil war in this country. That was
a whole deal.
The whole Vietnam era was just. Again, we talk about there's been a rise in sort of activism, protests in the streets in the last couple of years. It has nothing on what was happening in the late 60s and early 70s. So in that sense, this stuff's always been there. What I think is new, and what I talk about in the book here, is how this all synced up with political party. Because it used to be, as recently, in the 80s, even into the 90s, you could look at the Republican Party and you could find people, they tended to be from the Northeast, but not always. You describe them as political liberals. But they were in the Republican Party. And you'd look at the Democratic Party, and primarily from the South.
They're like the Reagan Democrats, too, of that time, too.
Yeah, and they were the swing voters to the extent there were back then, and there were very conservative Democrats from the South. And what it meant was if you were a Republican, you could look at the Democratic Party and you could see somebody you recognized. If you were a Democrat, vice versa. And we didn't live in a golden age where everything was bipartisan.
But it was close.
But there was room for it, And now everything is sorted out, everything is synced up. And party increasingly equals identity and culture, and that's, I think, how we start to get into these sorts of problems.
I live in Georgia, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about that in a bit, about the big race they have going on. But it's funny because there's a stat, like, there hasn't been a Democratic governor of Georgia since the early 90s. And I'm like, wait, there was one then? Like, that feels like, it would have been like the 30s or something. Like it feels like things have changed so dramatically, and I wonder how it responds in a sports kind of idea. I wrote a piece for New York Magazine about why Nike embraced Colin Kaepernick, and to me the argument I kind of made was it's not so much that Nike is suddenly woke or something, or Nike really has like strong political convictions. They've just recognized that that be all things to all people, that old Jordan line, which he did not actually say, the which is Republicans buy shoes too. That's it's not that Nike now is like, no, we support everything that Colin Kaepernick does, as much as it is like, now you have to pick a side. Like you have to pick a side now. And I wonder, while again, Nike happened to pick the side that I personally am on, so I'm happy about that. But I wonder if there's a long-term worry about everybody has to pick a side now, like whether it's a corporation that's just trying to sell athletic wear or an NBA commissioner? Like, is there an issue with people having, like, you just have to pick a side now, or?
I worry about this too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the theme, again, in the book is that the 90s was the decade we picked sides politically, but it wasn't just politically. What the questions really were in the 1990s, there were wars over budgets and taxes and that sort of thing. It ended up being, culture war politics.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And we were picking sides culturally. And that was, people look at Bill Clinton in the 90s and they say, it was very moderate, it was centrist, New Democrat. And it was ideologically in a lot of ways, but Bill Clinton introduced the sexual politics that came with a president who did all the things he did.
And there was the draft idea. And
you had your first boomer president at the start of the decade taking over for an authentic war hero, George H.W. Bush. It turned out, he'd not made himself available for the draft when he could have. He did it in a very skillful, very Clintonian way.
Yes.
But it aroused all of these sort of culture war controversy. The first thing that Bill Clinton stepped into when he became president was he was the first candidate, major presidential candidate in 92 to raise real big money from the gay community in 1992. And in the promise, in exchange for that, he told his gay supporters that I will, with a stroke of a pen, repeal the policy banning gays from serving in the military. And he thought it would be easy. And he came in, and the first month of his presidency is that. And it was Colin Powell and the military against Bill Clinton. And it was, at that point, a generation ago, the culture war politics cut against him on that, no question.
So, and to me, and we'll close this before we get to our silly questions. I live in Georgia. My politics are different than, basically I live in Athens, Georgia, which, like every town in America, is 15 miles. It's great. It's a nice little blue town, but go like 10 miles outside of it, and it's something very different, like New York City, frankly, for that matter. But what's funny is when I have someone I disagree with politically, I'm no longer talking about tax policy. I'm not like, I do not think trickle-down economics works, or I think that we need to be more cautious about the deficit. Like, that's not what the political conversation is anymore. They're not really about politics at all.
It's about culture and identity.
And it's weird because I feel like the natural result of that is actually not only are there no politics, there's no things that will actually get done, right? Because no one's actually running on, I will do this or I will do that. It's I will say the things that you want me to say.
Or I will attain enough power to protect you from them for the foreseeable future.
I mean, that's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying.
And I feel like this has been the real story of the last generation or so of American politics, where it's like, think about how many times it's happened where one party has finally accumulated that magic trifecta where they get the presidency, they get the House, they get the Senate. Now they're ready to move. And then there's a backlash. Clinton got the backlash, Bush got the backlash, Obama got the backlash, Trump may get the backlash, we'll see. But nobody's been able to get that power, move on an agenda, and then get rewarded by a grateful public for it. It just hasn't happened.
I don't. The final thing, I think it's just better to play for the Yankees or the Red Sox than to be in politics, because at least, no matter what, we do eventually get a winner. Someone actually.
Well, I have to say, this is easy for me to say now. There's nothing better than being a Red Sox fan in New York when the Yankees lose.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. That's why how I feel being in Illinois when the Cardinals win, which hasn't happened in a long time. Okay, now we're going to do a section called Frivolous Questions of Dubious Import. I have questions specifically for you. I hope you're ready. I see you on MSC all the time. You are a likable chap. Is the fact that you are a Red Sox fan the actual least likable thing?
This is the thing. It's you're saying Red Sox. The one I get more heat
the
for
Patriots. Yeah.
And that's the biggest change within my lifetime, because I was born.
They were the joke, right? They were the joke for.
Oh, they were 1-15 when I was a kid. They played in like a high school stadium. You show up, and they delay the game 15 minutes if you had trouble finding a parking space, because they were so grateful to have people there. So the Patriots one. Really, I guess Deflategate is it goes back to Spygate, but the Deflategate did something, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years where it's
talk about like polarizing and like the idea that it was just Boston against the planet.
That's what I'm saying. This isn't a Boston, New York thing. I can handle that one. I never hesitated to tell people, as a Red Sox, in 03, 04, when the Red Sox Yankees had that real big moment there. I didn't have a problem telling people. I went as Kurt Schilling for Halloween when I was about 24. I got thrown out of a bar, but
well, now you get thrown out of a bar for a different reason for going as if you're in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Schilling is.
So do you think that's why Red Sox and Boston fans are so insane, just because they've had this run of success? I remember back in the early aughts, like I felt I had empathy for Boston sports fans. No one will admit this now, but people were rooting for them against the Rams. People were totally rooting for them.
14-point underdog.
I know,
and
they were so
the Rams were unbeatable.
And no one will admit this now.
Right.
No one will admit this. There was that weird moment where everybody rooted for Tom Brady over Kurt Warner.
Well, it was 6 months after 9/11.
Of course.
The Patriots, this was the thing everybody wanted to be.
And everybody ran out at once, and they were like, yeah,
and
we're all
nobody
united.
in Boston believed they could, actually going to win that. Everybody loved that team, but we remembered the Bears Super Bowl from 15 years earlier. It was 46-10. It was going to be worse this time. Yes, no, they were the sweethearts there. And then, and Belichick too was just sort of curmudgeonly, but no, totally different.
It's just weird that now I wonder if that's why there's just been so much success, and I think Boston fans still think of their teams as underdogs, even when they are favorites.
But it took the team. I don't want to say it didn't ruin or anything like that. But think about what Red Sox Yankees was in the late '90s, early aughts. And then think what 3 World Series did to that. And I remember there was something, I'm so glad in my lifetime, because I know so many people who talked about the parent who never got to see it or whatever. I got to see the Red Sox win a World Series the way they did. But that frustration and that sense of you're chasing this thing, can we ever beat the Yankees? And then when they did, it's okay, the rivalry is not quite the same anymore.
Nobody even cares about the 07 championship.
Right. It was, the Rockies, right?
Yeah, that was who it was. Colorado fans remember it. Okay, so you and I both contributed to a book called Upon Further Review by Mike Pesca. By Mike Pesca. I wrote about what would happen if baseball was a weekly sport like football. If they played one game a week, and how I argued it might actually be the pastime the NFL is. You wrote about the alternative history if Drew Bledsoe had never come out of the game.
Right.
I'm curious, do you think the world is a better place if Tom Brady never, not as a Patriots fan, but literally the world, the way we relate to sports, all of the cultural things that the Patriots and Brady have had going the last 15 years, if as you postulate in the book, if Brady would have never become the quarterback, what happens? Is the world... do we hate Belichick? Is all of the NFL so insane now?
Yeah, no. I'm in the chapter I did for the book. Belichick is working in TV within 2 or 3 years because remember Belichick in this moment has failed with the Browns, and he's Parcells' sort of partner in crime, and that's the only time he can succeed. So we never know anything about Belichick the way we do now. I think Brady ends up going off and coaching high school in Northern California or something, and Drew Bledsoe is remembered for a couple 10-6 seasons with the Patriots. I mean, you want to go in a much bigger direction. I can never be anything but a Boston fan on a question like this.
No, of course,
this had to happen. And but I'll tell you, I remember at the time in Boston was the big controversy before anybody heard of Tom Brady, up to a year before, a month before, was you know what? They made a mistake going Bledsoe. It should be Michael Bishop.
Michael Bishop.
That's what
Michael Bishop.
There was a subset in Boston that believed in Michael Bishop as the answer to the Patriots.
It was like those Dallas fans are against Quincy Carter.
Yes.
Okay, all told, who would you rather be, Brent Musburger or Walter Cronkite?
I think Musburger. I get the sense that Musburger's got a ton of stories.
Yeah.
And I've heard, he's never written a memoir, and I've heard him say, "Come buy me a beer, and I'll tell you stories." And I would love to take him up on that because I bet that guy has some stories.
Some things that will never be repeated. Okay, so you're a game show person. Game show. So I was on a game show. I was on Win Ben Stein's Money. You will see me right there in 1997. I did not win Ben Stein's Money. Have you ever actually been on a game show?
I auditioned for Win Ben Stein's Money. And about 4 years later, and the show was canceled. I was on a show in Boston, Mass. It was a show within a show called The 7 Perils of Togo. It was a kid. They tried to do
that sounds like a ritual.
It was. I remember the one was that they put Vaseline all over your nose, and whoever could get the most cotton balls stuck to it would win.
Are you sure this was televised, or this is not like a prank?
Local television in Boston. About 5th grade, I think I was on that show. It was the first time. That was the only time I ever made it to a game show. I went to L.A. after graduating from college with a couple friends, and my plan to survive for a year was to get on a game show. And I got thwarted at every turn.
I think I got a Discman out of that show.
Okay.
Gifts. That wasn't too bad.
At the time, that was
okay. So my theory has always been that the 90s, because I'm a 90s kid, and I graduated college in 97. That's my formative decade. And Gen Xers totally thought that we were the important generation, and we totally got passed up altogether. It goes boomers and millennials, and nobody cares about Gen Xers at all. So my question is, I thought we were going to be this force for good. What little impact we've actually had, do you think Gen Xers are a force for good, or do we still have our time yet to come?
Maybe we're not the only generation that's got this problem, because remember the silent generation?
Oh, yes.
So you got the greatest generation, and they produced 8 presidents or whatever. Now the boomers, they won't let go of anything.
Ever.
And there's that 20 years in between that never produced a single president. and you think their time has passed. But if it were Joe Biden in 2020 at 78 years old, the silent generation
I thought
would get a president.
Yeah, they finally got, so I thought Obama was going to end the boomer thing. I really thought Obama was going to end.
And we were passing into a new thing,
Yeah.
and then we regressed 13 years, which historically, has rarely happened. So maybe we have to wait till we're 80 years old, and it'll happen then. But
then all the millennials will take
the revenge of the Xers, yeah.
If the entirety of MSNBC News got in like a Royal Rumble style fight,
Right.
who would win?
Who would win? Who's the? It wouldn't be me. I know that. Chris, I wouldn't bet against Chris Matthews.
You wouldn't bet? Yeah.
I wouldn't bet against Chris Matthews.
Yeah, that
He's
sounds
from
right.
Philly. He's got
That's a pretty good bet. Okay, just a couple more. Again, I'm a Georgia person. We
Yep.
have to actually talk about the current election. Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Does she have a chance?
A chance, yeah. I mean, I think any Democrat in a race that is sort of, iffy either way this year has a chance because the nature of the year, there could be a surge in their turnout, there could be a depression on the Republican side. There's a chance. There's all sorts of barriers that she's up against in Georgia. One that doesn't get talked about a lot is just it's the only state I think that does this. It is a runoff state
Right, they get
for the
50%,
governor's election. Right. So in Louisiana, but they have a different primary system. But in Georgia, the Libertarian gets 2, 3, 4%. Polls in this are dead even, and the turnout in these runoffs typically falls off like 60%. And her whole theory is turnout. So that's the thing I wonder about there.
I will find out. Okay, my last question. I ask this to every guest before we play our game.
Yes.
Things are scary out there in the world. So I ask every guest because I need to know. I need to be reassured.
Okay.
Are we going to be okay? Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it through this?
I think so. Look what we've made it through before. And like I said, when I think back to I do remember being struck covering some of the marches, some of the protests, some of the uprising, 2014, 2015, and looking back. You take these giant aerial shots, of Baltimore, Ferguson, and you compare them to what you got in the late 60s and early 70s, and it's a reminder that the scale of things was so much greater back then. We've been through some stuff before as a country.
I think we're just all inside on our phones getting mad now.
It's because it's in our
That's
face.
right. Yeah, it's in our face.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to play a game because your book is about the 90s, and I love the 90s.
Yep.
I'm kind of obsessed with it. We're going to play a game called Remember This Random 90s Human. I'm going to put a picture of a 90s human on the board. And you see
I'm going to have some dead zones here.
Okay, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah,
that's all right. Some of these people you will be very happy that you do not know and or remember.
Okay.
Okay. Question number one: Who is? Well, that's my name. Who is that person? Do you know? Who
Yeah.
that
See
person
now,
is?
if it's music, I'm gonna have nothing for.
Okay.
you there.
Well, that is Creed lead singer Scott Stapp.
Okay.
So you are already.
See, I was in the '90s. I was listening to music from the '60s.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the problem.
Smart,
That's the problem we're gonna have.
Okay. Who is this person?
Let's see.
He was younger in the 90s.
Wait, is that the guy from Third Rock from the Sun?
No, not Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Close though.
Yeah.
That is Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home
that's the Home Improvement guy.
Yes, the Home Improvement
I
guy.
would never have.
We should have picked a kid photo. That would have.
I would never have guessed that. Yeah.
That would have made it a lot easier.
Well,
He didn't have facial hair back then.
He looks like he's become a success. That's
Yeah, he's
good.
doing
Okay,
fine. He's
yeah.
got a glass of wine. Happy. Okay, who is? We got another music one. Sorry. Who is that? Well,
Oh no! I had a roommate in college who was who was obsessed with Liz. I know the name.
We actually just picked her, put her name up there. So that made it easier. But yeah, that album is so great. I'm a big Liz fan. Okay, political one. Who's this person?
Who the heck is? Can you give me a hint?
He was.
I think I should know this.
He was, unless they picked the wrong picture. He was a running mate during a major political campaign in the 90s, famous for a quote that he said at the beginning of a debate.
Is that's Stockdale?
I hope so. I hope they picked Stockdale. It is definitely. According to them,
I got to take the hat off there, I guess, to see it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Admiral
Richard
Stockdale.
Admiral
Sure. Yeah.
Richard
Who am I?
Stockdale.
Why am I here?
Why am I here? And who committed the cardinal sin of being briefly bad on television. Because he was like a totally accomplished guy.
Oh, this was more than accomplished. This was like the first guy in, last guy out, from Vietnam. But this is a McCain level, what he endured.
I think people would have loved him if they did not. But again, it's all that one moment.
TV, yeah.
It's the Howard Dean idea.
Yeah.
Okay, who is this person?
Oh boy, give me a hint on this.
MTV
Okay,
bro, MTV bro.
Ooh, no, I
Dan
can't.
Cortez.
Wait, but was he on an episode of Seinfeld?
I think he was on an episode.
He was the
of Seinfeld.
rock climber.
Yes,
See, that's
correct.
okay, right.
We gotta start using 90s.
His face got gashed, and right. Okay, I remember now.
Okay, we're gonna do one more. We're
Okay.
gonna do one more. This one's from athletics.
Okay.
So we're gonna do one more. An athlete. Who is that person?
Is that Detlef?
Detlef Schrempf.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, there we go.
Detlef.
Was with the Mavericks and Sonics.
Sonics,
too,
yeah. Detlef
okay,
Schrempf.
yeah, yeah.
Also the name of a wonderful Band of Horses song. If you like the band of Horses, Detlef Schrempf.
They did a song.
It's a
Okay,
great song.
great.
Okay, so thank you very much. This has been very fun.
Yeah.
Good luck with the book on everything, and thank you for letting me feel like we're going to survive all of this.
Yeah, I think we'll be
Sometimes-
okay. Thanks
okay,
for
good. I'm holding you to that. All right, so thank you to Steve Kornacki. The book is The Red and the Blue, the 1990s and the Birth of Political Tribalism. I am Will Leitch. This is the last show of season 1. We'll be back in January for season 2 of the Will Leitch Show. Otherwise, come back to SITV or wherever your Will Leitches are sold.